tell me, let's start with this one on the left, number 1. I'm not going to write the steps down. I want you guys to tell me step by step what I need to do. So starting off, what's the first thing I got to do? Guillermo, good. We're going to make this equal to 0. Cool. Next, we're going to move the k. Which one's the k? Beautiful, the 48, the negative 48. So in order to move it, what do I do? Raymond's got it. We're going to add it. It's the opposite of subtracting. We're going to add 48. That's going to cancel it out. 0 plus 48 gives me 48. Okay, cool. Now what? There you go, Gary. Now we divide. What am I dividing by? Dividing by 3. What's 48 divided by 3? 16. Okay. Oops. Yeah, you gotta be careful with those math. Now we take the square root. What is the square root of 16? Careful, not 8. 4 and negative 4. The square root, we're not dividing it by 2, we're taking the square root. Okay, so that's the number that when you multiply it times itself gives you 16, which is positive 4 and negative 4. Positive 4 and negative 4. And now what's my last step? What's the last thing I gotta do? How do I get this x all by itself? There you go, subtract 4. All right, what's 4 minus 4? Good, I got 0. There we go. And then on the other side, I'm doing the same thing. I'm subtracting 4. But here I have negative 4 minus 4. So what's negative 4 minus 4? Good, Raymond. Good, Guillermo. We get negative 8. So x equals 0 and x equals negative 8. And those are my what? If I graph this, these are my
Solutions.
my solutions, yeah. My x-intercepts. Okay, we're not graphing it today, but just something that we got to remember that the whole reason we're doing this is to find the x-intercepts. Okay, very similar problem. Now let's see, Guillermo, let's see if you can get the right answers this time. Okay, what do I do first? Well, okay, first I make it equal to 0. Now what? We add, good. All right, 0 plus 16, I get 16. Now what? Now I divide by 2, good. Okay, 16 divided by 2, I get 8. Take the square root. Okay, what's the square root of 8? What's 4 times 4? 16. So is that the square root of 8? No. What is the square root of 8? 2? What's 2 times 2? You're moving. Ugh, okay. Go move to the other room and then come back when you get there. Okay, yeah, so you can't take the square root of 8 and to get a nice whole number, so it's an irrational number. So what do I do when I get an irrational number? Keep it as good. Positive and negative square root of 8, okay, equals x minus 2. Now, at this point, we can also see if we can simplify this. Is it possible to simplify the square root of 8? Okay, let me do this up here so we can all see what I'm doing. The square root of 8 is the same as the square root of 4 times 2, right? 4 times 2 equals 8. Then the square root of 4 times 2, what's important about the number 4? What can you do to the number 4? It's a perfect square. So what does that mean? What can I do? I can take the square root of it. Yeah. What is the square root of 4? Yeah, good. The square root of 4 is 2. So I have 2 times the square root of 2. So the square root of 8 can be simplified as 2 times the square root of 2. So I'm going to be adding 2 to both sides, right? So my final answer is going to be x equals 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 2. A lot of 2's. Yeah. 2 times the square root of 2. And remember, when you have an answer like this, when you have a square root of an irrational, that gives you an irrational answer, you always want to check to make sure that it can be simplified. So the number 8 was able to be simplified. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So we'll see a few more examples like this in the future. So we always just want to keep track of those little things. Okay, so this is my answer here. Now I want to go over something that happened on Khan Academy because a few of you sent me messages about this. So I just quickly want to explain. On Khan Academy, it's a little bit different because they want you to give them an exact answer instead of something like this. So in order to do an exact answer, all you have to do is go to your calculator and get an estimate for the square root of 8. So if I go to my calculator, where's my calculator? I have too many apps. Oh, here it is. Okay. If I go to my calculator, type in the number 8, square root of 8 is like 2.82. You guys see that? 2.82. So let's see. Let me make some room here. I'm going to move all of this a little bit over. Okay, so at this step, what you would do is, okay, the square root of 8 is about 2.82, but you get positive 2.82, actually 2.83, I have to round up, equals x minus 2, and then negative 2.83 equals x minus 2. So you're just going to treat it like basically the same way as this problem. It's just that you're going to have a decimal instead. So then you just do the little bit of math. You have to add 2 to both sides. Plus 2. And you can use your calculator for this. Okay. So now 2.83 plus 2, I get 4.83. Hold on, let me make this a little bit better organized. Okay. So I get 4.83 on this side. And then over here, negative 2.83 plus 2, I'm going to get negative 0.83 equals x. Okay. So I'm seeing confusion in the chat. Let me explain one more time what I did. This is specifically for Khan Academy. Specifically for Khan Academy, nothing else. On Khan Academy specifically, you get 4 problems. One of those 4 problems is going to be like this. Since you can't take the square root of 8 and get a nice whole number, what you have to do is take the square root of 8 on your phone. Do it right now. Type in the number 8, take the square root. You're going to get this long decimal. 2.8284271. It keeps going. That decimal, we're going to round it to 2.83. So the square root of 8 equals positive 2.83. The square root of 8 also equals negative 2.83. So I have the positive over here. I have the negative over here. And then x minus 2 goes on the other side. This is the same thing I did over here. I just wrote it in a different place. It's the same exact process, but with decimals. So you just got to be a little bit more careful. Okay, does anyone have questions on that? Okay, now I encourage you guys on Khan Academy to, if you don't understand it, you can always press the hint button. It says need a hint or use a hint. It's going to make it like if you use a hint, you're not going to get the problem correct, but the hints help a lot to explain how they want you to write the answer. So if you're not really sure what Khan Academy is looking for, use a hint, use all 3 hints, see what they want you to do, learn from the mistake, and then just do it again. You can do Khan Academy as many times as you want, so you might as well do it. If you get it, I really don't like it when you guys do Khan Academy and then I look at your score and you have a 0 or a 25%, and then I look and I see that you only did it 1 time because it tells me how many times you did it. I would rather you do it 50 times and get an A than only once and get a 0. Because at least if you did it 50 times, that means that you learned from all your mistakes. So for me, it's more important to try again and try again and try again and do better. So just make sure that you don't get lazy with that Khan Academy assignment. Any other questions? Okay. Someone's saying that the reason they only do it 1 time is because they want me to teach them how to do it correctly. But at that point, I can't teach you anymore. I already taught you. So you got to figure things out a little bit for yourself at that point. All right. So let's go to today's lesson. We're going to keep solving equations, but we're going to be doing it a slightly different way. So we're coming back to factored form for a moment, because we know factored form is the best way to figure out the x-intercepts. So real quick, let's just go over that one more time. This is factored form. What are my x-intercepts? How do I find them? So Guillermo says make it equal to 0. Yeah. So remember that with factored form, you take your factors and you make each of them equal 0 separately. And then you just have to solve for x. So here I'm subtracting 2. And Najira already got our answer because there is a quicker way to do it, but I always encourage you to try it if you're not sure, you always want to do it the long way so that you know why those answers are correct. That's how it works, yeah. You set each of them equal to 0 and then you solve for x. So I got x equals -2 and x equals +5. And those are my x-intercepts. This is all, we've learned this before. So when you have factored form, another thing that we've learned how to do is to convert it from factored form to standard form. So I'm going to rewrite this function over here now. Same function. Okay. How would I go from factored form to standard form? What do I need to do? Good, Ajara. we're going to use FOIL. So again, this is still reviewing. I have factored form. I'm going to turn it into standard form by foiling. So what's x times x? I got x squared. What's x times negative 5? Negative 5x, good. Then I have 2 times x, 2x. And then I have 2 times negative 5, negative 10. Now what? Good. I got to combine like terms. Negative 5 plus 2. I get negative 3x. And there's my standard form equation. Cool. Okay. Guillermo, you just got to keep on it. Ajira's always on it. She's always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. You gotta learn how to do things a little bit quickly in this class. That's because since we've already learned this, I'm not going to take the time to go over it right now because at this point everyone should be able to kind of do it pretty quickly. You must train like Ash. You gotta foil them all. Okay, so I'm in standard form now. Do we know if you're in standard form, have we learned yet how to go the other way? So we just went from factored to standard. Do we know how to go from standard back to factored? No, right? We haven't learned it until today. So let's talk about it. So in order to go from factored form to standard form, we FOIL. But to go the opposite direction, we're going to be doing something called factoring. And today we're going to learn how we do that. But basically, the most important thing is to notice that factoring is just the opposite of foiling. And we use factoring to go from standard form to factored form. So I want you guys to just write this down in your notebook, as well as my example over here, so that you can remember what exactly it is that we are doing. Go ahead and take about 30 seconds to write it all down. Or Matt, I'll give you a minute. Yeah. So we FOIL to go in this direction. Let me make sure we know. Factored form, standard form. That's really good advice, Karina. I'm sure that'll help them really well on the EOC. All right, anybody still writing? Okay, we good? Let's go ahead and take a look. So now we're going to learn how to actually factor. And the most important thing to remember while we do this is that factoring is the opposite of foiling. So when you factor, you're going to think about, well, what happens when you FOIL? Let's go back for a moment. When we FOIL, there's something that's a little bit interesting about the numbers in the middle, okay? So notice, I have a 2 and I have a 5, a negative 5. Over here, I'm adding them together. I'm doing negative 5 plus 2. But when I do my last, so I have 2 times -5, I get -10. So in other words, this -3 is what you get when you add the two numbers, -5 and +2. This -10 is what you get when you multiply those two numbers. -5 times -2 or +2 gives you -10. So -3 is the sum of -5 and +2. -10 is the multiple, is when you multiply the product of 2 and -5. So -3 is the sum of those two numbers. -10 is the product of those two numbers. So when we go in the opposite direction, we're going to be using something called the sum product method. The sum product method. So let me explain what that means. Now I have the same exact example. So we have the same numbers. So we already know what the answer is going to be because I've just been using the same exact equation. But the sum product method basically means we're going to take this number right here. This is our sum. And that number right there is our product. So the sum is -3. The product is -10. And what we have to do when we're factoring is we have to think, okay, what are two numbers that add up to -3? So m plus n equals -3. So the sum of those two numbers is -3. And then the product is -10. And this is where factoring is a little bit interesting because you have to actually sit there and think about it for a while and go through your head and think, okay, what are two numbers that add up to -3 and multiply to make -10? And then you have to think about it and think about it and think about it until you figure it out. Now, we already know what the answer is going to be in this case, but can anyone tell me what are the two numbers that are going to add up to -3 and the same two numbers have to multiply to make -10? But they have to be the same two numbers, Ijara. So those don't work because -2 and 1 is not the same two numbers as 5 and -5. So it has to be the same two numbers that add up to -3 and multiply to make -10. Can anyone think of them? Yes, in this case, we already know what the answer might be, so we can think of those numbers that we used before. And Lauren's got it. -5 and +2. So let's double check. Let me bring this down a little bit. -5 plus 2, that gives us -3. -5 times 2, that gives us -10. So we found our magic numbers. This is what I call our magic numbers. Those are the ones we want. So what we do, once you found the magic numbers, it's actually super easy. We're writing this in factored form, so we know it's going to be two binomials, and they both start with x. And then you just put those magic numbers right in. So -5 and +2. Those become the numbers in factored form. So the factored form equation is x minus 5 times x plus 2. So that is basically the sum product method. And we're going to do a lot of examples today, so we'll get used to it. But that's the strategy. So you know that you got to find two numbers that add up to make B and multiply to make C. And it's going to require a lot of just trial and error. You kind of have to think about it for a while, try to come up with the right combination. And then when you do, that's it. You got your answer. So at this time, do I have any quick questions? We'll do we'll do a lot of examples, so you'll have time to ask questions today. You'll get used to it though, Ajira. You'll get used to it because the more examples we do, the easier it's going to get.
It's harder finding the actual combinations from the actual word.
Yeah, actually finding the combinations, that's what takes time. But I'm going to show you guys in a little bit the strategy that I like to use in order to do it. Y'all ready for another one? Okay. So here's another one, same exact idea. Which one is my sum? What do they have to add up to? Good, they have to add up to -11. So remember, the middle, the B is always the sum, C is the product. So sum is -11, the product is +28. So my two numbers have to add up to -11, and they have to multiply to 28. Now here's my strategy. This might be able to help you. The number 28 we can see what all the factors are of 28. So 28, 1 times 28, 2 times 14, yep. What else? There you go, 4 times 7. I believe that's it. Now look at the factors. Is there any combination that we know that we're going to need one of these to be negative or maybe both of these to be negative? But how can I get myself to -11? Do any of these numbers add up to -11? Now they're all positive right now, but remember that they could be negative as well. We're talking about the positive and negative factors. There's one, I'll give you that. -2 plus 14, that's going to be 12. So keep thinking. Ooh, okay, 7 and 4. -7 minus 4, yeah, that's -11. And then -7 times -4 gives me +28. So notice, since this is a positive number and this is a negative number, I know that my factors have to either be, both of them have to be positive or both of them have to be negative, right? Because if I end up with a positive answer, then these two numbers, either both of them are positive or both of them are negative. But since this is a negative number, can you end up with a negative number when you add two positive numbers? No, right? So that kind of helps me narrow it down. And okay, now I know that both of these two numbers have to be negative because they have to multiply and become positive. But when I add them, it's still a negative number. So when I see my list of numbers over here, I know that both of them would have to be negative. So in the end, this is my combination that works. -4 plus -7 equals -11. -4 times -7 equals +28. I found my combination. Now I can factor. So this is going to be x minus 4 and x minus 7. And it has to be the same two numbers. Yep. That's why I named them m and n, because m is the same m, n is the same n. They have to match completely. take a moment and just look through what we did. This is kind of an interesting type of math because it's not like there's a specific rule to follow. It really is a lot of thinking and trial and error and figuring it out. Okay, so that's why this is a little bit of a different topic than usual. Does anyone have any questions so far? So by the way, in this case, what are the zeros? Now that I've factored it, I know what the zeros are going to be. What are they? Yeah, +4 and +7. So guess what? We didn't know how to do this before. In the past, if you had a standard form equation, we didn't really know how to find the x-intercepts, but now we do. So that's pretty cool. So now, guess what? You guys know how to find x-intercepts from factored form, how to find the x-intercepts from standard form, and how to find the x-intercepts from vertex form. You are able to do it for all 3 types of forms, which is pretty cool. Kind of like ties it all together. All right, let's do another one. Actually, let's do 2 more. So this is where I want you guys to try it on your own. And like I said, it takes a lot of trial and error, figuring it out. Think of the right 2 numbers until you figure it out. But for all of these, just let's quickly together, which one's going to be, for number 1, which one's the sum? Good, they have to add up to +3. And they have to multiply to make -40. And then for number 2, which one's the sum? They have to add up to 18 and multiply to make 80. So I want you guys to take as long as you need. I'll give you guys a whole 5 minutes if you need it. But send me your answers in the chat when you get them so that I know who figured it out.
Do we send our answers in the chat?
Yeah. Okay, about 2 minutes remaining. It's one of those things that takes time the first time you're figuring it out, but again, the more and more we do it, the easier and easier it'll get. And if you already got it, then good. Pat yourself on the back, take a little break. All right, take 30 more seconds. Send me your answers in the chat. I already heard from a few people, but I'm still waiting on a lot of you guys. So send me your answers in the chat. Or if you're a little stuck, you can ask me questions. All right. That is time. So let's go ahead and take a look at number one. In number one, what are the magic numbers? Which numbers add up to +3, but multiply to make -40? Good, -8 and +5. Now, when you're doing this problem, you might notice, okay, this is a negative number. When you multiply the two, it becomes negative. So that means that one of them has to be positive and the other one has to be negative. That's the only way to make it work out. So when you're thinking through the possibilities, you can think about, okay, it's going to be a negative and a positive. Okay, -8, +5. That works. And then over here, -8 plus 5. Wait, does that work out or no?
No.
No. So, okay, that's okay though. Is it going to be -8 and +5 or maybe the other way around? How about -5, +8? Does that work out? Yeah, that does work out. -8 plus, or sorry, -5 plus 8 gives me +3. So that was actually a really good example of how you might go through it in your head. Sometimes you come up with the wrong combination, and that's totally fine as long as you fix it a little bit, adjust it a little bit, and then you get your answer. So it's -5 and +8. So my factored form is going to be x minus 5 and x plus 8. Now from there, what are my x-intercepts? What are my x-intercepts? Now it's +5 and -8, which I think is what Lauren was referring to in the beginning, but I took it as an opportunity. So these are my two factors. -5 and +8 are my factors, but my solutions are +5 and -8. So it does get a little bit confusing sometimes. That's why I'm being very, very clear about it. This is factored form. And this is my x-intercepts. They're related, but they are two different things. So we got to keep them separate and make sure we know the difference. Any questions on number 1? Okay. How about number 2? Which two numbers add up to positive 18 and multiply to make positive 80? Eight and 10. Positive 8, positive 10. That adds up to 18, multiplies to make 80. That one was a little bit easier, I think, because both of them were positive numbers. My factored form is x plus 8 and x plus 10. And then what are my x-intercepts? Negative 8 and negative 10. And that's the basics of it. So does anyone have any questions on these two problems or on the sum product method? Questions going once? Going twice? All right. Warmer, that's good. Okay, I think I have a couple more. Yeah, I do have a couple more. Cool, even more examples, but this time let's try to do it a little bit faster. So instead of 5 minutes, I'll give you 3 minutes on this one, but it's the same exact idea. These might be a little bit easier. Go ahead. Okay, about 1 minute left. I want to hear from more people. I haven't heard from Sophie, haven't heard from Raymond, Jeffrey, Andrea, Anaya, David, Jade, Allison, Bianca, Guillermo, Juan. Let's go. Two numbers that add up to 12, multiply to make 36. What two numbers add up to 10, multiply to make 25? All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, these were a little bit easier. That's why I'm saying, y'all, I need to see way more answers in the chat because you can't let up the opportunity to participate on a question like this one. It's simple. What are two numbers that add up to 12 and multiply to make 36? Good, Raymond. 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. They got to be the same two numbers. 6 times 6 is 36. The most important thing is they have to be the same two numbers, same exact numbers. So 6 plus 6 equals 12. 6 times 6 equals 36. So when I write this in factored form, I get x plus 6 times x plus 6. You just plop those magic numbers right in. Now, this is a little bit different, I guess, than the previous examples. Not necessarily different, but what's special about it? Yeah, you can actually simplify this because here I have x plus 6 times itself. So how would I write this in a simplified way, Karina? Exponent of 2. Remember, when you multiply something times its own self, you're really doing the power of 2. So this is the final answer that I get for factored form. It's x plus 6 times x plus 6, so it gets an exponent of 2. Questions on that? Cool. Now, in that case, what are my x-intercepts? Do I have 1? Do I have 2? How many do I have? What are my x-intercepts? -6 and -6, but those are the same exact number, right? So if I put a point down on the -6 and then I put another point down on the -6, they're going to both be on the same exact spot. So it's really 1 x-intercept, yeah, just -6. Cool. All right, now I see lots of people already telling me for the next example, the magic number is 5. 5 plus 5 gives me 10. 5 times 5 gives me 25. So factored form is going to be x plus 5 times x plus 5, but just like this one, I can simplify it. So this is x plus 5 squared. And then my x-intercept is what? -5. Good. Cool. So these two examples are a specific type of trinomial. We've seen it before a while ago, but I just wanted to bring it back. If you end up with an answer like this, where you can simplify it and the magic number is 2 of the same exact number, then that means that you have a perfect square trinomial. So both of these are perfect square trinomials. That's just what they're called. So you might see that word come up, and now you know what it means. It just means that when you factor it, you end up with a perfect square, right? We bring this to the power of 2. So that's where that comes from. It's a perfect square trinomial. Any quick questions? We're going to move on to something, we're going to kick it up a notch on the next slide. We're going to go from medium to medium high. Okay. Now, if you notice all the examples that we've been doing, let me actually go back. What is the leading coefficient in each of these? What is A? A equals 1. Remember, it's the number in the front, the invisible 1. Same thing here, A equals 1. How about here? One. Over here, 1. Every example we've done so far, the number in the front, the leading coefficient, has been 1 on all of them. But now I have a 5. And that's a problem because the sum product method only works if the leading coefficient is 1. Only works when A equals 1. So when A is greater than 1, if you have a number greater than 1, you need to see if it's possible to divide by that number. So I take a look, okay, my leading coefficient, A equals 5. Then I look, 45, is that divisible by 5? Can I do 45 divided by 5? Yeah. How about 90? 90 divided by 5? Yes. So if you can divide by the leading coefficient, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're just going to divide it, everything divided by 5. Now let's see what happens. I end up with 5 divided by 5, I get 1. So I end up with x squared plus, I saw in the chat someone already said 45 divided by 5 is not 7, that's 35 divided by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 90 divided by 5 is 18. And now we're good. Now we can do the sum product method the same way we were doing it before. So now I can do, okay, what two numbers add up to 9 and multiply to make 18? Six times 2? Six times 3, yeah. Okay, 6 times 3 equals 18. 6 plus 3 equals 9. So those are my magic numbers. And I can do this problem just like all the rest of them. So I get x plus 6 and x plus 3. Everybody with me so far? Any questions? Okay, but there's one thing that is still kind of an issue because we divided by 5, right? So the original equation has to be multiplied by 5 to get back to where we started. So let me explain that one more time. Since I divided by 5 at the beginning, what I really need to do is I need to make that 5. I basically took it out of the equation, but I can't just ignore it. It's still there. It's just in the front. So my leading coefficient is still 5. It's just that we took it out. Does that kind of make sense? We called that, we factored it out. We took it out of the original equation, but we didn't ignore it. It's just hanging out in the front. So it cancels. Yeah, the reason we did it is in order to take this leading coefficient and turn it into a 1. But we can't just ignore the 5. It's still there. It's still part of the original equation. It's just that it gets to live out in the front. And if you FOIL this, remember, foiling would bring you all the way back to what we started with. It's the opposite. So if you FOIL this, you'll end up with the same exact function. Yeah, you would distribute it, exactly. So final answer, 5 times x plus 6 times x plus 3. What are my x-intercepts? -6 and -3. All right, so that's basically what happens when the value of a is greater than 1. Do I have any questions so far? We'll do a couple more examples. Cool. All right, let's try another one. So this time I have a 4 in the front, which means I'm going to need to divide everything by 4. But again, I'm not ignoring the 4. I'm just taking it, I'm factoring it out. What will I be left with?
X squared.
What's 48 divided by 4? Anyone? 48 divided by 4? $12, good. So I got x squared plus 12x. And you can use your calculators, 128 divided by 4. 70? 32 sounds a little more correct. 32. We're dividing it by 4. So here's my trinomial. Now I can factor the trinomial. Same exact thing. What two numbers add up to 12? Multiply to make 32. Nice, Lauren. She did that fast. And remember, you can always take it a little bit step by step. Oh, not 84, 32. What are the factors of 32? 1 times 32, 2 times, what, 2 times 16, 4 times 8. And then you think, okay, which of these add up to 12? 4 plus 8 equals 12. 8 plus 4 equals 12. 8 times 4, not 12. 8 times 4 equals 32. All right, so those are my magic numbers. Let me put them in. And what are my x-intercepts? Good. X-intercepts or zeros would be -8 and -4. Any other questions on this situation where you have to factor out the 4? No questions? Okay. So try this one on your own. Take another 3 minutes to do so, and then, oops. And we'll move on to another one. All right, guys, about 30 seconds remaining. And time. Okay, check this one out. What should I be doing first? Okay, good. I'm seeing it in the chat. First thing I gotta do, I have that 3. We gotta divide it out, factor it out. Now it's not going anywhere. It's just gonna be out in the front. But I divide everything by 3, so I end up with x squared plus 3 divided by 3 is 1, so x. And then 90 divided by 3, I got 30. And don't miss the negative. Good. Okay, so this is a 1, remember. There's an invisible 1 right here. So I need 2 numbers that. This was a little bit trickier than the others. They have to add up to positive 1, but they have to multiply and make negative 30. So let's think about this, because what are the factors of 30, but specifically, what are the factors of negative 30? So for example, negative 1 times 30, negative 2 times 15. What else? Negative 5 times 6. There's a lot of different combinations, right? Because you can also have negative 6 times 5 or negative 15 times 2. So this one, I put negative 2 and positive 15, but you could also have negative, that should be a 15, I'm sorry, negative 15 and positive 2. So you really have to think of all the different combinations. Good, yeah, negative 10 times 3, but also negative 3 times 10. And once you come through all the possibilities, you can take a look at your list and figure out which of those is going to add up to make positive 1. Which one is it? Good. Negative 5 and positive 6. Negative 5 plus 6 gives me positive 1. Negative 5 times 6 gives me negative 30. So there's my magic numbers. And now I can put them in. X minus 5 and x plus 6. So that's my factored form. Now, what are my x-intercepts, my zeros? Positive 5 and negative 6. So it's always the opposite. So how do we feel now compared to how we felt at the beginning with factoring? Give me a little emoji symbol in the chat. How do we feel? In the chat or on the reaction button. I see Karina's got a thumbs up. Bianca's got a thumbs up. That's it, just two? 2 people with a thumbs up? You can give me other emojis. You can give me the shocked face if you feel shocked. Raymond's got a thumbs up, good. If anyone feels like amazingly about this, they can give me the little party celebration symbol. Clapping, good. Okay, well, that's pretty good. That's not bad. Lauren's got a thumbs up as well. That's good. Cool. So let's see. What time is it? It is 10:25. I want to give you guys an opportunity to, because I don't want to move too far ahead. Let me think about it. Do I want to do this or do I want to leave this for tomorrow? Because I know I have some people testing and then I have one student who had to leave. So let me debate this for a moment. Leave it for tomorrow? Okay, I'll leave it for tomorrow. Okay, so in that case, what you guys can do right now is go to Khan Academy and work on that if you haven't finished it yet. And if you're done with Khan Academy, you can work on the extra credit assignment from yesterday. So let me pull that back up. Okay, ignore what I wrote over here because that was for my 7th period. All right. So if you are done with Khan Academy, then you're working on this one. This goes back to what we learned about yesterday. So if you need a refresher on what we did yesterday, you can watch the YouTube video. I already put it up. All right, so here it is. Take a moment. We have about 15 minutes, 20 minutes remaining. So you can continue working on this for the remaining time. And tomorrow we'll move on to the new stuff. So go ahead and stay on Zoom and get to work. No, y'all already know in this class, there's never a free day. Never a free day. Mm-mm.